Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to PSGL. George Morgan here, your commentator, alongside me, TK, who is going to be rounding off the season with me. Down the inside, absolutely impossible season.
This is for the win between these two.
I'm on the edge of my seat.
He needs to get it done now.
Blakely will dive to the inside.
We're robust. We got our elbows out.
Ronard takes the lead.
Because here comes Alfie Butcher.
Can't really complain with that one.
It's not going to be easy. The pressure is on, of course.
Yarda Watmere is your champion.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in the world, and welcome back to PSGL PCF2 here in season 43. We head to round 6 this evening. We head over to Italy for a trip to Imola, where we get our first taste of the F126 cars around this very circuit. And what we have heard from drivers here tonight, very difficult to overtake, so qualifying could be very important. My name is Max Ring, and I'll be taking you through all of tonight's action, of course, alongside my amazing commentary partner for the season, Omi. How are you, Omi, on this Thursday evening?
Amazing. Wow. What an incredible word to start off with. Thank you very much, Max. But yes, let's hope for a lot of fun. Let's hope that the action today is amazing, but it is tricky to overtake. So what I can guarantee you is qualifying could definitely be amazing. And we have 1 point available for pole position for our pole sitter. So it'll be very fascinating to see who is going to take that. Tony Hietala has been on pole twice. Liam Stevens has had a pole. Vermond has had a pole. And so has our most recent race winner in PCF2, Alejandro Loureiro.
Yes, of course. If you missed it last time out, it was Loureiro who took the race victory, but it was very, very hard fought on that last lap between himself and Liam Stevens. But some great driving from the Alpine when it comes to the defensive capabilities made sure he got that win across the line from pole. But let's quickly run you through your drivers' standings. And it is Liam Stevens at the very top. He keeps on the 100% podium streak, picking up his first second place last time out in Austria. And he's got a 28-point advantage over Tony Hietala. Nearly 2 race wins between himself and the Aston Martin man, who, of course, he pipped in the last few laps to take that second place away from. Then it's Stachulek in third, who is 33 points back before we see Lari Tulki, who, of course, finished 8th, and, of course, one of our most recent race winners. Of course, Loureiro in 5th, first F2 victory of his career, and took it from pole position as well. Lovely stuff from the Alpine man. So it's an Alpine 4 and 5, then it's Dirk Vermond in 6th, Conrad Bohm, Judah Prezikin, Ave Gabadi, and Tamas Kokeni round out the top 10, before Kasper Flack, Jensen Ralston, Rishan Jacobs, Lorenz Patton, Zach Styler, Nelson Alves, Stephen Vasso, Tom Roberts, Elia Tomasetto, Cloud, Alex Santana, and Sabrino round out your point scorers, with Van Selter, Raphael, Basner, and Fittler all yet to score. But Liam Stevens here, Omi, a huge margin at the top of the standings. It's going to take a lot. Yes, we're only at the halfway point of the season, but it's going to take a lot for the drivers to reel him back in.
Absolutely. Of course, reserve driver at the start of the campaign, turned full-time driver due to obvious reasons. And he's got an incredible margin when it comes to this championship battle. Just because, you know, everyone I'd say underneath him, we've had different names emerge. We've had all of the names below him miss races and, you know, all sorts, have retirements, etc. So it's given Stevens the buffer, and it's given him the advantage when it comes to the points battle, because, you know, when you've got drivers below you who have not started, who've DNF'd, who've not been in the points for one race, and he's been on the podium in every single race, then I think that very much speaks volumes about that 28-point gap. And he needs to continue that from round 6 all the way until the 11th round of the season, where we conclude as well at Kota.
Yeah, certainly does indeed. And he's showing that consistency really is key to a good championship campaign. Of course, here at Imola tonight, a circuit I wouldn't think many drivers have done too much. It's a track that does not feature often on calendars, and of course, it is also a track we have not got on the real life calendar as of yet. Of course, it's still subject to change maybe later on next month, but at the moment, this is everyone's first gander, really, unless you've seen it elsewhere, of the Imola circuit with the F126 regulation. And it's going to be interesting, of course. Battery saving should be quite easy around here, Omi. There's a lot of corners that come at you very quickly. You're constantly braking and deaccelerating. So it's going to be a circuit more about flat-out racing for once in qualifying, rather than having to save into some of the corners and having to then try and manage both the battery and of course, the tyres.
Going to be very, very fascinating, this contest across today. Of course, our sixth round of the PSGL PCF2 Championship in season 43. And qualifying is where it all begins before the drivers get to a very tricky race. But right now, they can do something about trying to make sure the race isn't as tricky by, positioning yourself nearer to the front of the field. So it's going to be very close margins. It's going to be very fascinating to watch all of the entertainment that we're about to get. So this should be quite a lot of fun.
It certainly should be indeed. Now, of course, take you track side for qualifying session that is just getting underway, and it's going to be Casper Flack who will lead us on to the first runs. As you can see, Tom Roberts has retired from the session. He got a qualifying ban after last time out, impeding Florian van Selter, and it's going to be a long race ahead for him, especially if what we've heard from the drivers is correct, and that it's very difficult to overtake. So he's already on the back foot heading into this session. But Casper Flack now, as he exits down the main straight, he'll make his way through this little kink of turn 1 and will get us underway here in Imola. The first qualifying lap here tonight, and this will be the benchmark, lifting ever so slightly as he makes his way into the Tamburello chicane, down to 5th gear, rides the curbs nicely. Of course, he's a bit more of less downforce on these cars compared to the 25 machines. Going to be a little bit more of understeer, a little bit more oversteer as well. And these cars are going to be so fun to hit over those curbs. Nice stuff through the first sector as he now makes his way out of Toza. Activates the straight line mode as he now heads up into the left-hander of the Piratella. Down the gears he'll go, down to 5th gear. Make sure you keep it valid. And he does before making the drop down the hill into Aqua Minerale, down to 4th gear. Slowly pick that power back up as you head back up the hill into the Variante Alta, and through the middle sector split of 49.3 so far from the Haas man. Easy place to invalidate, gets a little bit sideways coming out of the chicane, but he's still keeping the car facing in the right direction and drops down the hill into the first of the 2 Ravazzas, the final 2 corners on the circuit. Now into the final Ravazza, the final part of the circuit. Again, an easy place that's just understeer wide and invalidates, and across the line we come with Casper Flack. It's a 1 minute 13.9. That is the benchmark for everyone else to beat.
Yeah, absolutely. A great first benchmark just being set. Gabadi going top, and then Stevens immediately goes fastest as well. So the first lap's just coming in. It's basically just about getting something on the board and then, of course, going from there. So Stevens, Ciatala, Lorera, that order will continue to change as they tick over the line. But this first one can be so important in terms of setting the confidence. You're going to get a few goes at it, but in order to have a good run 2, in order to have a good run 3, it all can get started at this moment. Just starting off this qualifying session on a high. You're not always going to be able to get to, for the drivers who have done a lot of practice, you're not always going to be able to get to what you did during those practice sessions. But if you can get as near to it as possible, then you're going to be in a very good position, because the drivers can spend, for the ones who do a lot of practice, they can spend a lot of time trying to get the perfect lap, but then it comes down to this 18-minute session where they have to try and deliver exactly that. As Larry Tulke, one of our race winners from this season so far, that was at Madrid, of course, set to 1 minute 13.584.
Lovely stuff there from Larry Tulke to give himself a 300th buffer over Liam Stevens. It's fine margins at the top at the moment, but yeah, of course, in qualifying, in the actual event, it is so the pressure is so much different. The mentality is a little bit different as well, because of course, in your practice you can make a mistake and then reload the session and go again. But when it comes to, of course, the main event qualifying, the pressure is higher. There is that opportunity for mistakes to creep in. Stephen Vasso puts himself up into 10th place. Lorenz Patton is now just making his way down into the Ravazzas, but he has invalidated his previous attempt. So he would potentially be gearing up for another run, and yes, he is. So he's going to go on a lap now. Let's go on board with the Williams driver, as he is the latest on a run, but it is going to be all about how these drivers now adapt to this session. Of course, track conditions might be slightly different to what they're used to in their practice runs, because they do that on the, of course, as perfect as possible. Try to get the track as grippy as they can. That's why potentially we see drivers around a 10th or two away from their personal bests.
Absolutely. Lorenz Patton then makes his way through in the commentary box. I'm Omi, and alongside me, Max Ring. At the moment, you're watching round 6 of PSGL PCF2 in season 43, and we are here at Imola for what should be quite challenging qualifying first of all, and then an even challenging race when it comes to overtaking. But we'll worry about the race later on. We're focused at this moment on the Williams man, Lorenz Patton, making his way through, and in the top 5 when it came to last time out at the Red Bull Ring. Very much a bit of a breakthrough result considering the type of season that Lorenz Patton has had. His first top 10, and then of course also a first top 5 with where he finished last time out. So a great performance, and it's a great chance to try and take the confidence over here to Imola and to the rest of the season as well.
Certainly is indeed, as we have some drivers a little bit further down the order now setting laps, one of them being Elia Tomasetto, who's had a rather poor season. He's just invalidated through Aqua Minerale. But what about Conrad Bohm? He's certainly been someone, especially in qualifying pace, who has been up the very top. He has been one of the quickest drivers we've seen in qualifying so far this season. You can never rule him out for a challenge for that front row of the grid through the first sector. Not seemed too bad at all. On the limits of what his Red Bull can do. Now into the Piratella, a little bit wide from that apex. The car just understeering wide, and now into Aqua Minerale, a crucial traction zone, a crucial pickup zone. If you bog down out of here, you're going to have no momentum all the way into the middle sector split, and of course through the Variante Alta. Keeps it clean through there. Jensen Rausen now goes to the top of the times, a 1 minute 13.535. He's got a 500th buffer to Lari Tulki behind. Hietala and the Rero have just started laps, and here comes Conrad Bohm through the second Ravazza. The front end of the car just does not seem to want to grip up at all, and what's it going to be for the Red Bull? It's still 6th fastest, but certainly a lot more time can be found in that car.
Driver 7th in the championship, 6th in the order at the moment, who we were just watching. Here is Lavero, pole position last time out, race winner last time out in an incredible last lap fight with Liam Stevens, who we very nearly thought could have fought his way all the way up to the win. But Lavero was absolutely brilliant with his defense, as Max described at the time, after what was an incredible fight. But he just positioned the car so well when it came to that session. And once again, we keep talking about this confidence, but we're already, I mean, it's like yesterday we started the season, and we're already very much getting to that halfway mark, and past it, in fact, even, as Lavero now makes his way over the line. So it's very much important to be putting in lap times like that. 1 minute 13.518 is your new benchmark at the front of the field. Here's a driver who's been at the head of the pack 2 times before in his F2 career, and we're going to have to wait to see whether he can do that in the remaining 9 minutes. For now, he's going to come back to the pit lane, as will many drivers, but Sergio Sabrino sets on the board your new benchmark, still in the 1 minute 13.5s, but very much getting closer to the 0.4s.
They certainly are indeed. We are edging closer and closer to those 0.4s. We're just slowly building up to it. That's a great lap time there from Sabrina, who is another driver who has struggled this season for form. And he will, of course, enjoy being at the top of the times for now. We're now on board with Stephen Vasso, currently up by 10.5 in that first sector, currently on a 13.9. We'll need to find at least 4/10 of a second to put his way onto the front row of the grid. Now makes his way through the Piratella. Another car just slightly missing that apex, being a little bit too far wide potentially on the entry. And now into Aqua Minerale, nicely done through there. Uses all the circuit on the exit as well. Now makes his way into the middle sector split. He's now up by just under 2.5 of a second through the Variante Alta. And now back onto the power, and he'll head all the way down the hill into the first of the 2 Ravazzas. Very easy to lock a front brake into here, go a little bit too hot onto the brakes as well. It just reels you in to go deeper into the corner and later on the brakes, but lovely stuff through the last reversals from Vasso. What's it going to be as he crosses the line? It's enough for 7th fastest, a 13.6. A lot of these drivers in the 0.6s. I mean, there's only a 10th that separates Sergio Sobrino all the way down to around about Liam Stevens. And then from that, it's only 3 thousandths to Tony Hietala. So it's fine margins at the front of the field. A 10th of a second could put you from down in P10 all the way up inside the top 5.
It definitely is a slow burner, this one, because we're waiting for some lap times to still come in. We're waiting for some faster lap times from others, including this driver, Lorenz Patton, who currently is about 10 seconds off the pace. So we're still waiting for some proper laps to come, and we're still waiting for some proper efforts without drivers invalidating, etc. So that's to come in these final minutes, but it's just going to make these final minutes very, very exciting. The final runs as well, because we usually would have a decent order by now, but we don't have that at the moment, so it's very much still wide open. If you are nearer to the front, you're definitely, though, proving to be a contender in this session. Right, Fanzelter then. Next one over the line, a driver who is going to go fastest of all and into the 0.4s, which we were waiting for. So 1 minute 13.407. He was going very nicely around the Imola circuit, and now he's got the benchmark for the rest of the drivers to beat. Pressakan's not going to do that because he's invalidated. Same applies to Lorenz Patton as well. So still drivers struggling to get times on the board nearer to the bottom of our timing page.
Yep, certainly are indeed. And that's a lovely lap there from Florian Fanzelter. But Lari Tulki might be one to challenge it. Up by just over a 10th of a second in that middle sector. And if he could hook up these final 2 Ravazzas, he certainly could beat the Cadillac driver. But runs a little bit wide out the first Ravazza. Missed the apex slightly. And that's going to cost him some time, you would think. He comes to the line now. What's it going to be? He did lose time, and he's only improved by half a 10th of a second. But he does move himself up into 4th fastest. Tony Hietala is in 7th. He's on a 13.6 currently. What's he doing in the middle part of the lap? He's only up by half a 10th of a second. Of course, a man who's taken many poles in PCF2, and he knows exactly what to do to get a lap hooked up and to get the job done. And also the reigning champion here this season. He makes his way through the final couple of corners. He's got a Haas car just in front of him, I believe. Actually, no, sorry, that's a V-carb of Abe Gabadi, I believe that is. As he comes across the line now, Tony Hietala, it's quickest of all. Into the 0.3s we go. So Tony Hietala now to the top. Can Liam Stevens respond? The championship leader to the line. No, just misses out, but only just. And he's on the front row.
It's coming alive now. Hietala, Stevens, Fanzelter. Sabrina begins a lap. Lourero's pushing on once again, and it is great to see the confidence that this driver has behind the wheel as he goes chasing now for another pole position as he makes his way through. Akram and Arali then. Oh, he's invalidated, so that's going to be it for that lap time for him, and he was trying to push on. He was trying to find the limits of the circuit, but it is so important to be within those white lines, and if you take it right to the white line, of course, then you know you're maximizing, which is so important here in PCF2, because it's going to come down to close margins, so you absolutely need to be right up to the white line, ideally not beyond it though.
Yes, ideally not beyond it at all. Of course, you've got to use all the circuit you possibly can. These are some of the best drivers on this game, and to beat them, you have to maximise the amount of circuit you can use. You've got to try to take the shortest lines through the corners as well. So now for Sergio Sobrino, who of course at one stage did set that benchmark before he got taken away by Florian Fanzelter. Can he snatch it back? Can he now go to the top of the times once more? He can! Only by 7 thousandths of a second, but he now displaces Tony Hietala at the top. This track is improving, and it's improving exponentially. It is rapidly changing, and for Sergio Sobrino, he has benefited, but he's got to get back to the pit lane quickly. Only 3 minutes and 30 seconds will be left on the clock, and he has got to get that car turned around rather quickly around a long pit lane as well that we have at Imola. It's going to be very difficult to do so. Dirt Vermond is going to come into the pit. Stephen Fasso is pushing on in the McLaren. But this qualifying session, we don't know who's going to snatch pole position. We don't know who is going to take that top spot because it's so evenly contested. It could be anybody within this field. 3/10 separate the top 12. That is how close we have it here at Imola. And for Stephen Vasso, is he going to abort or finish the lap? This could certainly be the McLaren driver's final run.
So, Vasso over the line. He's going to decide to continue it as the driver in 10th improves up to 8th position. So 3 minutes to go, and now we are getting to crunch point. There is the driver making his way out onto the circuit to try and challenge for a pole position, and that is exactly what he's going to be aiming for. There is so many drivers in the hunt, and I know we say this every single round, but this session's very much been unique in the sense of that you've not seen a lot of the laps. You've not seen a lot of the potential laid down early. They've been waiting, and it's come at basically different times across this session, and now we are about to get a battle for pole position. 1 point available and at a circuit which the drivers have had a practice race at, and it proved to be tricky to overtake. 2 overtakes and they came in the opening lap. With that in mind, you know that when you enter the whole round of this championship, you must try and aim for the front row, for pole position. So alongside the point, it is very important to be here in P1.
It certainly is indeed, and it's going to be Alejandro Lerero, last time out's race winner and pole sitter, who will get us underway for the front runners in this session to end off qualifying here tonight. Of course, the final runs, there's no more redos, it's all down to this. He does have time to back off, so that Lerero is afforded the time to have a redo actually. But this is crunch time. This is when the pressure is at its highest because you need the lap and you need it now and you need to perform. So for Lerero through the first sector as he exits the Villeneuve chicane, is he up or is he down? He's down by 100th of a second in the first part of the lap. A little bit wide through toes. You can see just putting him a little bit wider onto the marbles. The rear of the car skating about and he is aborted. So Alejandro Lerero aborts the lap. He won't be going again. Where's Tony Hietala on the road? He's coming out of the Villeneuve chicane and he's down by 0.5 of a second. So a lot of these drivers making mistakes quite early on.
Absolutely, it's scruffy. It was very scruffy for Lerero, so he of course just abandoned that completely, and he's going to focus on the next lap. And that will be the consequential lap for him, and that'll be the important lap for him when it comes to this session. Tony Hietala still out there, still pushing on at the moment, and he's still down by about 0.04 of a second. Well, he's going to be also just trying to make it to the line in time to some degree for another lap, but that's Tony Hietala on the back foot because the battery is going to be absolutely drained by this point as he makes his way then down towards the Ravazzas in that Aston Martin machine. A pole sitter so many times in F2, fighting away with the car through that final corner, and now he's very much not going to have battery on his side, but he's still going to go on the attack around this circuit. We jump on board with the Alpine of Lari Tulki.
Here we go then with Lari Tulki. Was up in the middle sector by 0.07 of a second. He could certainly be someone who snatches pole, but a slide through the final corner. And Florian Van Selter to the top. A 13.2 is the new benchmark now from Van Selter. Tulki's mistake proved costly. He's not going to find an improvement. Ralston into 5th. Casper Flack now to the line. He goes 11th fastest. What about the likes of Liam Stevens? He's down by 0.03 in the middle sector. Can he at least be the championship rival? But he makes a slight error through the first Ravazza, and that could be Stevens not finding an improvement either. Up to the line comes the championship leader. He does find an improvement in the end, but it's not enough to snatch pole position away. Sabrino in the first sector, up by nearly 1/10 of a second. So a man who has constantly shown his pace, no, he's invalidated the lap as well. He was showing so much promise throughout this session. It's not to be. Alejandro Lerero, he's also invalidated the lap. Preskin up into 7th fastest. What about the likes of Vermond and Gabadi? Vermond with an invalidation, Gabadi down on these lap. All eyes now really switch to Conrad Bohm, who we know has been exponentially quick in these qualifying sessions. A poor one so far down in 16th. The front end of the car not being hooked up at all, but can he find any more time? Can he snatch it away from Van Selter? No, finds time but only moves to 14th fastest. Lawrence Patton comes, it will come into the pit lane as he's invalidated an attempt, and Florian Van Selter, when nobody was looking, takes that pole position away, and he sneakily is able to take it away from the championship leader Liam Stevens.
Well, 2 weeks running, Liam Stevens got close, but not close enough. And Florian van Zelter, a driver who has never had a top 5 when it comes to races in his F2 career, is going to have a great opportunity to change that later on in a few moments' time, because that's a first ever pole, 16th race start for Van Zelter, and he will see himself leading us down towards the Tamburello chicane, which will be turn number 2, and that is going to be really a lot of fun for him as well, leading us down towards that first braking zone. This is how they finished. We knew it was going to be close, and it's a first ever pole for Van Zelter. Stevens in second, and Sergio Sabrino. Can he kickstart his campaign properly in third? Hietala fourth, Kokeni in fifth, then Rausen, Presakan, Loureiro, Tulki, Vasso completing your top 10. Outside of that, we found Vermond, Gobadi, they were 11th and 12th, and then we have Flack and Bohm on the 7th row of the grid, and then it's Widler, Santana, Styler, Patton, Dowds, Jacobs, Roberts, and Elia Tomasetto. They'll go from the back, the bottom 3 not setting a lap time, either due to coming late or due to qualifying bans as well, respectively. So we now get ready to progress towards the race, and well, we've got an interesting grid and we've got an interesting run coming down to the first consequential turn, the Tamburello chicane.
Certainly do indeed. Of course, Tamburello turn 2 is going to be a very crucial decider in this race, because of course, if the race does pan out like we've heard the drivers at their practice race, if it pans out that way, certainly could be whoever leads out of the Tamburello chicane takes the race victory, and we have clear skies here as well in Imola. It's going to be all to play for as well in the championship, because Stevens has the upper hand on Tony Hietala. He has the opportunity to extend that championship lead, and especially with an inexperienced driver at the front of the field like Florian van Zelter, he may be able to capitalise and take that position into the first corner. Expecting a hard, medium strategy from the drivers here tonight, and it is an agonisingly long pit lane here in Imola as well. You go from one side of the start-finish straight and you slowly trundle all the way to the other side just before we get to the Tamburello chicane, around about, I would say, 500 metres out from that chicane. It's going to be, of course, a blast down to turn 1, and it's a very tight turn 1 as well, so there could be some incidents in the first couple of corners. If you're able to get side by side out of Tamburello, you've then got to navigate your way for an overtake through the Villeneuve chicane. A very tricky overtaking opportunity, but here we go then. It's Van Zelter and it's Stevens on the front row. 5 red lights are on and we're underway here in Imola. It's a great start from the Cadillac, who's able to just slip in front of the V-Carb as we make that run down into turn 1, but Liam Stevens will have that slipstream heading down into the first corner, but Sabrino looks to be on the attack, wasn't able to find a way to the inside with the V-Carb. Gabadi goes across the gravel, and now Stevens will be on the offensive. Sabrino bogged down out of the Tamburello chicane, and Stevens not able to find his way through. It's single file all the way down to around about 11th place, where we see Casper Flack getting the move back past onto Vermond. A little bit further back, it's Santana and Gabadi going side by side into Toza, and it looks like the V-Carb will surely win out on this one. He's going to be on the outside though, unfortunately for the Piratella, but Santana slots back into play. The Rero now going for a move on Stephen Vasso, forced wide and onto the gravel, and last week's race winner has had a disastrous opening lap. He's dropped down now to 18th place, just in front of Arishan Jacobs, and he's going to end things off there. But a dream start there from Florian van Zelter from his first pole position here, Omi, and he leads at the end of the first lap.
Yeah, absolutely. Got exactly the launch that he was looking for, and it means that by the time that he got down to turn number 2, he was the driver in P1. They make their way through the Ravazzas then at the end of the lap and getting very close together. Loureiro, well, a terrible opening tour for him, and he's now just trying to recover things as they make their way over the line. Right, lap number 2 of the contest begins then. Who's got the overspeed to try and make a move? In these early laps, it can be very much important if you can get your way by, considering, you know, when everyone settles in eventually, how hard it is to overtake around here. So it can be important if you can try do it in these early stages when everyone's close together. But the opening lap's complete, and it's Van Zelter, Stevens and Sabrino, your top 3, as we continue to move around the order and see where the overtaking is. And Eve Gabadi, who was off the road when it came to the Tamburello chicane, in his mirrors can see Zach Stahler and Victor Vidler go wheel to wheel.
Certainly do indeed, and it's Victor Vidler who has to back out of it and drop down 2 places there. He was 13th as they made their way into the Villeneuve chicane, and Gabadi and Styler both fighting their way past. Just behind these two, it's Santana versus Lorenz Patton, and the Williams car all over the gravel going into a slide, and that's going to invite his teammates alongside him into the Variante Alta. Is Jacobs going to try hold it? He is. He's going to force Patton offline slightly, and this gives him the great opportunity to do the up and under. Expertly done if he can pull this one off. It's going to be all about the battery heading down into the Ravazza, and it's going to be Patton who uses a little bit more to hold on to his position, but Jacobs using some smart racing there to put his teammate under some big pressure for that 17th place. Fanselter, of course, sets the fastest lap of this Grand Prix as we end lap 2 and start lap 3 of 32. Many laps around this circuit. And it is a 4/10 advantage at the top. It's Stevens, Sabrino, Hietala and Kokeni who round out the top 5, and that's Tudor Prezican looking for a move onto Jensen Ralston. Just not able to get it done, but the McLaren driver looking very racy indeed as he goes to the inside late on the brakes. And he's just going to miss out on that one, I think, as well, because Ralston should have the overspeed on the outside and take that position back. He does, but Prezican certainly showing he's not happy to sit behind.
Yeah, he's loving the send in towards Toza. Very much loving that opportunity that he's getting at that part of the circuit, but not able to make that maneuver. And sometimes if you go on the attack, it can mean that you're vulnerable. Larry Tulkey also in behind. So important at a tight circuit like this, where overtaking chances aren't going to come around plenty of times. If you try go for a move, you've got to try do it in the right way so you don't find yourself losing out to another driver. As we make our way into the braking zone, we've had one McLaren late on the brakes today. Vasso just looming large on the mirrors in behind. That is, of course, of Larry Tulkey. So Tulkey finding himself in a bit of a McLaren sandwich over there as we send it over the line once again. Fanzel to Stevens. Sabrina still remains your order. The gaps remain closed, but no one dares to make an overtake in that pack because, of course, we're getting to the territory now where the drivers are settled in this race.
Yeah, certainly are indeed. Of course, going to be settling into a rhythm, going to be looking after their tyres and saving that battery. But it really is the main driver who's looking to make the moves is Tudor Prezican against Jensen Ralston. Might be feeling like he's a little bit held up here by the Haas driver and could make some inroads on the cars up in front. The likes of Kokeni and Hietala, he might be able to make some moves. Just not able to find a door wide enough for that McLaren to go through. And if he does, just not be able to take the right line, be able to get the move done confidently enough. Take that position away. Kokeni just in front of Jensen Ralston as well. Was looking onto Tony Hietala into the Peratella, but just was not able to have the overspeed into the left-hander. Single file through the Variante Alta chicane. You can see how close all these drivers are. No driver out of a 1 second window of one another. So everyone from Stevens down does have that overtake mode to use, where of course you get a little bit more battery to play with and a little bit more power in your car. So as we exit out of the Ravazza once again, and it is still unchanged at the front of this field. Let's bring up the tyres here, Omi, and see what these drivers are well and truly on. And it's everyone on the mediums but Fiddler and Tomasetta.
Yeah, so two drivers going a little bit different when it comes to that, as you were describing earlier, mediums to hards. The other option, hards to mediums, and it seems like two in the field are choosing to just go a little bit different. They're all running close together. Is anyone going to send a lunge into Toza? This time around, Prezican decides against that and doesn't decide to make the move through that part of the circuit as they climb up to Peratella at the moment in time, and then get ready to dip downhill as you arrive to Acromina Raleigh. That would be a brave place to put a nose in, and both McLarens at the moment stuck in behind, desperate for an overtake. Prezican and Vasso are tucked behind their rivals, and Vasso is about a 10th behind as they make their way then through the chicane. You've got Prezican pushing Ralston through as they head through Acromina Raleigh, and then down towards the Ravazzas, which bring an end to our racing lap. You've got Kokeni also putting the pressure on Tony Hietala. So we've got some close drivers in the field as we make our way through the final turn. And now get ready to see whether anyone's got an overtake for us down this start, finish, straight, this old school tight technical circuit, with the top two separated by 0.2 of a second, and they make their way down into the braking zone with the order remaining as it is. Lap 6 out of 32 at this stage.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what Fiddler and Tomasetta are going to be able to do on that alternate strategy. Are they going to be able to have the pace differential on those mediums they'll go on to at the end of the race compared to the hards? That's going to be the big question for them if they're going to be able to make any moves at all. But for Liam Stevens, he's now stalking his prey of Florian van Selter at the front of the field. Of course, here in PCF2, inexperienced with leading races, whereas Liam Stevens is very much experienced in leading races, and he is the championship leader by 28 points over the man in 4th, Tony Hirtala. So, for the Cadillac man, he's done well in the opening 6 laps so far to keep the V-Carb at bay, but Stevens is certainly threatening more and more as each lap ticks by. On the last run to the Tamburello chicane, it was only 2 tenths of a second. The time before that, it was 3 tenths, so he's getting a tenth closer lap by lap, and this might be his prime opportunity down that main straight. He's going to be tucked into the slipstream. He's going to use that battery, you would think, and he's going to get closer and closer, and he's certainly within striking distance now, but won't go for it again. Maybe just thinking the battery is more important at this stage until that pit window. Just going to keep eyeing up Florian van Selter for now, but that is an opportunity going to miss for Liam Stevens, I feel like. Well, I think he's playing the long game here, Omi. Tudor Prescott and Stephen Vasso still stuck behind Rowson and Torquay.
Yep, everyone is on board right now. The F2 train, led by Mr. Van Zelter at the front of the field. A driver who's shown so much potential. Always remember that triple overtake from him in Jeddah at the end of last season. A superb overtake that was, as he blasted past everyone down towards the braking zone. So it's great to see him getting to fight at the front of the field, and I'm looking forward to seeing how he handles this race in this leading position with experienced names behind. Steven, Sabrino, Hirtala. Well, those are definitely 3 names of drivers who have proven themselves as champions, as drivers who've, been in race-winning positions, and now we get the field bolting. So, in comes Stevens, in comes Hirtala, Casper Flack is in as well, so not going for the move last time by was Liam Stevens, and he is going to choose to try and go for a bit of an undercut as he changes his tyres.
Yeah, the undercut could be very powerful around here, of course, lots of traction zones. It is now all down to Van Selter to see if he reacts. A lot of the front runners react. For McLaren, they're a little bit in between a rock and a hard place because they're going to be able to double stack. So it could mean that Stephen Vasso just stays out an extra tour and drop down the order a little bit further maybe. But for Liam Stevens, he's out. Ahead of Tony Hirtala, and Casper Flack was also the other driver to come into pit lane. What do these drivers at the front of the field now do? Do they go into the pit lane? Do they try to extend the stint? Of course, last time in Austria, we saw Liam Stevens be the one who extended that stint. It worked out in his favour. Just fell short for the race victory. Certainly improved his overall position. He was running in 4th place in that race, and he ended up finishing in 2nd. As we now head down into the Ravazzas, Florian van Selter, what do you do here, sir? In the Cadillac, do you come into the pit lane? Yes, he does. He reacts. Sabrino stays out. Same with Kokani as well, because, of course, he's a fellow Cadillac driver. Presikon stays out. A lot of these front runners staying out, so it's only Van Selter from the front of the field who now comes into pit lane, and this is very interesting indeed, especially with the fact Hirtala and Stevens came in on that last lap.
Absolutely. So a lot of the leaders coming in towards the pit lane, and Stevens is going to be making his way through. We're going to wait for a Cadillac to emerge. Where they will be ahead, where they will be behind, we're about to find out in a few moments' time. There is the Cadillac rejoining the circuit. It's going to be very close, and through goes Liam Stevens, and through goes Tony Hirtala. So, Van Zelter rejoins in a net 3rd place in this train. So he's going to need to now go on the attack to try and make a move, and immediately going for it. Massive closing speed, and very nearly contact between Aston Martin and Cadillac. Van Zelter had the battery, Hirtala didn't. They met in the middle of the Villeneuve chicane, and it was an opportunistic attempt by Van Zelter, which very nearly ended in tears for the pair of them.
It certainly did indeed. Florian van Selter, you didn't need to risk that at this stage. Yes, you want to get back through on Tony Hirtala, but the closing speed was so strong on that Cadillac that he went straight into the side there of the Aston Martin. Luckily, both drivers escape unscathed, and Kokeni gets 10 seconds for speeding in the pit lane. That's going to ruin his race, especially with the fact now he's going to get not only the undercut, by a few of these drivers, but he's going to be within that train, and we've seen so far in this opening few laps, it's so difficult to shake that train off from you. So that means he certainly could finish this one down at the back of the field. Victor Fiddler was able to get past Abe Gabadi. Where does Sabrino now come out as well in relation to those drivers that boxed either 2 or on the last lap? So there is Sabrino exiting the pit lane. Through goes Stevens, through goes Hietala, and Fanselter as well. So Sabrino's not actually trickled out that badly. He's only been undercut by that of Tony Hietala. So for the Red Bull, he's done rather well. And Casper Flack has certainly brought himself into contention now as well, because he is just behind the Red Bull man.
Absolutely. So as we head down towards now Toza, and then towards Piratella. Very consequential moment a few moments ago, which very nearly saw contact, as you mentioned, Max, between Hietala and Fanzelter, and the desperation to go for an attempt at that part of the circuit. Very much, you know, showing the case of how hard it is to overtake. If you can have a free position easily in towards Villeneuve and basically get that done with, then it would put you in a bit of a better position, but it was definitely a big risk that could have been even worse than the position that he finds himself in at the moment in time. So these drivers still go on those medium compound of tyres as they continue on. Elliot Tomasetto has made a move. He's on the hards. He's one of 2 drivers who started on those hard compound of tyres, along with, of course, Victor Vidler, who will get into the pit lane later on as we check in with Florian Fanzelter, getting closer, and then the braking zone comes up, and you have to then tuck back in through those opening turns, and then it's very much a bit of another little strip that you get of, well, being able to slipstream just a little bit, and then, of course, we get to the Villeneuve, and they continue to follow very closely. Another look, this time around by Fanzelter, but didn't commit this time around.
No, it did not. It was, I think, also reacting to Sergio Sabrino as well. Maybe some reactive defence from the Cadillac driver, because Sabrino looked for a lunge and went back to his normal line. And for Florian Fanselter, he had to try and cover that one off, as Victor Fiddler now gets a move done on Dirt Vermont. So those hards really starting to come into play here against those medium runners who have not boxed so far. Rowson still leads the field from Tudor Preskin and Laurie Tulke. We might actually see a move from the McLaren onto the Haas into the first couple of corners. Oh, just next bit behind. But Tomasetto Elia is now able to get a move done as well. So he's now up into the top 10, and he's just disposed of Rushan Jacobs for that position. What about Florian Fanselter against Tony Hietala once more as they make their way down that main straight? Fanselter getting closer. We know he will attack if he's got an opportunity. Not, just sits behind into Tamburello. So is he now just calmed down slightly, saw the moves have failed, and is now just focusing on tyre and battery management? That is going to be the question. Liam Stevens, even after being a second clear here as well, Omi, wasn't able to break away from Hietala, as that's Fanselter to the inside at Toza. There's more contact between the Aston Martin and Cadillac, and for once again, Florian Fanselter not able to make his way through, even trying to barge through that door.
Yeah, once again, a case of I mean, Fanselter's finding himself in a very annoying position. Hietala's, you know, you can see with the light as well that he starts harvesting right before those corners in a way which Fanzelter still very much at full performance. So they basically meet in the middle, and he's kind of forced into a bit of a move, and then eventually it gets too close for comfort. And he's kind of having to half commit to a move, which he may not completely intend. Meanwhile, there goes Presacan ahead of Rouse, and they're both on that same strategy at the moment in time. So it's for the lead, it's for the race lead at the moment, but they still need to, of course, make their pit stop, which Tulke, Vermont, Gobadi and Jacobs have all done now, as the rest of them come charging through and over the line once again. Is this going to be the opportunity? We jump on board with the driver, who was this time around trying to get to the inside line by the time that he got to Tamburello, and he is doing everything in his power. What's the battery like this time? Can he try and make the move? He backs out of it, but he's forced Hietala to a bit of a compromised line through this part of the circuit. Is there another chance down towards Toza? No, he's going to very much sit in behind, but he's getting plenty of opportunities. He just needs to make sure it's not one that ruins his race. This could be another one as he gets close and then tucks back in when he realizes he can't fully pull alongside and commit.
Yeah, he's trying his hardest here as Fanselter to just make a mistake out of Tony Hietala or just find a way through, just see where the door is open, a little bit of a slide out of Aqua Minerale. That just shows you how hard he is pushing. But he's just not able to find any door wide enough for that Cadillac just yet to break through. Tudor Preston and Jensen Ralston now both come into the pit lane. We're nearing that halfway stage of this Grand Prix. Is it Fanselter's opportunity into the Ravazza? No, but here Hietala goes a little bit deep. That now gives the Cadillac an opportunity to get a good run out of the second Ravazza. Does so indeed. Yellow flag in the first sector, and I believe that is for Stephen Vasso, who has gone round, and he has gone round in the McLaren. Oh, unfortunate scenes there for Stephen Vasso, who's driving really well in this race. That's going to be Fanselter Tilly outside. Isn't able to find his way through once more. But what about the exit into the Villeneuve chicane? Has he got the battery? Has he got the overspeed? He does. He looks to the inside, and he finally is able to get away through onto Tony Hietala after plenty of laps of trying. Here comes Sabrino as well now, looking to the inside of the Aston Martin. So Hietala been passed by one, might be mugged by another, but he just is going to be able to hold on, I feel like, up into the Piratella. He does. But the Aston Martin certainly starting to struggle here. And that's Florian Fanselter now up into a net P2 as Sabrino looks for a lunge into Aqua Minerale. And he's just able to find it, but Hietala sideways under braking gives the Red Bull the perfect opportunity on the exit of the corner to get right underneath him. And the reigning champion showing some signs of weakness, which is very uncharacteristic.
So he's losing out at the moment. Finally, Fanselter unleashed. And then Sabrino basically following through immediately as well as we head down towards the Ravazza in those final few turns. Casper Flack will be the next one to go on the attack, and also you've got Tamas Kokeni, who is desperate to try and make an overtake at the same time. So we've definitely got a lot going on in the field as we head down towards turn number 1, and not a chance yet for Casper Flack, and Kokeni also just tucking in behind. But a few laps to forget for Tony Hietala. Fanselter was able to fight his way by. Sabrino immediately did so as well. And now they tuck in behind our net race leader and your championship leader, Liam Stevens, who is in 6th. But that'll be for the win later on.
It certainly could be indeed. And now, of course, Tony Hietala, he's going to come under all sorts of pressure here from Casper Flack. Just falling further and further backwards, and this is not good for his any form of championship fight with Liam Stevens, who of course at the moment is in a net P1, whereas Hietala now in a net P4, coming under pressure from drivers, of course with Casper Flack boxed in the same lap, and Tamas Kokeni boxed 2 laps after him, and then after that it's Lari Tilke for speeding in the pit lane, so that will demote him to the back of the order, you would think. Now, exit out of the second Ravazza. It's still Liam Stevens who leads this train from Florian Fanselter, then Sergio Sabrino, and it's Lari Tilke who sets the fastest lap of this Grand Prix as well, showing how quick those tyres are of a pace differential. And Tamas Kokeni looking for a move on Casper Flack, isn't able to get it done. But the Cadillac driver also looking very racy indeed, and has done ever since he come out behind the Haas driver. But like Fanselter, has just not been able to break the code and find a way through.
Absolutely. So, very fascinating battle going on at the moment in time. Yellow flags momentarily flying around Imola circuit. But the field now continue. We watch with Rishan Jacobs. So it was momentarily, but we were able to very much then get going from there. So nothing that's going to bring a race to an end. Luckily, as we reach the halfway mark.
Yes, we come to the halfway mark now. And of course, for Florian Fanselter, he's really picked up the pace because he's now all over the back of Liam Stevens. Certainly wants his first race victory here in PCF2. I believe Rishan Jacobs was the cause of that brief yellow flag. Just running right wide out of Villeneuve onto the gravel. And he lost a little bit of time to Zach Styler in front of him. Conrad Bohm now into the pit lane, waiting on Victor Fittler and Elia Tomasetto to go into the pits. And we've had everybody in the field make their trip down the pit lane. Of course, they started on the hards, so they're going to extend their stint a little bit longer to go onto the medium compound of tyres. 13 seconds is that gap between the top 2. And Stevens, Florian Fanselter, he's now trying to put the pressure onto Liam Stevens. That gap 0.3 of a second. He's got a little buffer to Sergio Sabrino, around about half a second, but that's enough for an attempt at an overtake and then not worry about getting overtaken from the Red Bull behind. As we look further back, Tamas Kokeni looking racy against Kasper Flack once more. Not able to get the move done, but his teammate in the hash, Jensen Ralston, able to get past Lorenz Patton. He's up into 11th place now, will hunt down Tudor Preskin. And Lari Tulki has now joined the back of this fight as well. And he's going to look for a move onto Tamas Kokeni here. Just is fought off by the Cadillac man. And for Kokeni, with that 10-second time penalty, it's going to hamper him. He's still not giving up and showing some great pace at the moment.
Absolutely, as they hit the brakes once again as we reach the final part of the lap. Great contrast between our net racer leaders. One driver chasing win number 7 in PCF2. That, of course, being Liam Stevens on his 76th race start today. It's the 16th race start for the man in second, chasing his first win, Florian van Zelter. This is going to get close down towards turn number 1. So, Kokeni looking for it on Flack. Tulki looking for the move on Kokeni. Kokeni's half attempt might mean that he's heading backwards because the Alpine driver, one of our race winners from so far this season, is going to sail the long way round into the Villeneuve chicane and welcome to P8. Lari Tulki, who sends it the long way round and improves his position on lap number 18.
Great move there from Lari Tulki to make his way up into the top 8. Really was able to capitalise on that half move from Tamas Kokeni, and that put the Cadillac on the back foot, lost the momentum, and Tulki was able to easily swing by around the outside at the Villeneuve chicane, but also did have 3 lap old younger tyres. So that also may have helped with a bit more purchase out of the corner. Now as we exit out of the Valiente Outer, could see Lari Tulki now attack Kasper Flack and maybe do what Tamas Kokeni could not do, and that is get by Kasper. Then move his way up further through the field. Hietala, he's around about 7 tenths behind on Sabrino. It's an equal gap back to Kasper Flack, but Lari Tulki certainly on the offensive here because he's now going to look for a move onto the hash driver in front of him. Flack going to try to defend but doesn't have the battery to do so, and it's as easy as you like for Lari Tulki to move up into 7th place. That's 2 positions in 2 laps. Like taking candy from a baby, it was easy as anything. Now going to focus his attention onto Tony Hietala, another driver struggling for pace.
Absolutely. So we continue through this phase of the race. Tulki with some great pace at the moment with his fresher tyres, and he's looking to try and go to work to the drivers ahead. Tony Hietala's been on the back foot so far, so Tulki's going to try and make this move as soon as possible. Once again, Van Zelter remaining close to his rival, but he knows how. So many attempts today have nearly ended in a crash. He does not want to add to that list, and he only will want to go for it, you know, in the final stages, if he has to, or earlier if, of course, a move is absolutely on the cards, and if it's certain. So there's definitely a lot that Van Zelter will be assessing, and I'm sure himself, along with his engineer, are going to be working together to try and reach the best outcome of finishing P1 in this race. As we jump on board with Victor Vidler, and the reason why is he's in the pit lane, and he is one of 2 drivers who started on the hards. Of course, his teammate being the other of Elia Tomasetto. Right, back to the Lari Tulki overtaking show, everyone. Hietala parks it to the middle of the road, and around the outside goes Lari Tulki well before they hit the brakes for the Tamburello chicane, and he's up to P5.
Yeah, once again, an easy move with the battery. And he makes his way up another position as Tudor Prescott is all over the back of Tamas Kokeni. He's got Jensen Ralston for company as well. And we saw heading down into turn 1, there's some slight contact between the Cadillac and the McLaren, who squeezes the McLaren out wide. That could give Jensen Ralston an opportunity to cut back underneath, but he just is not able to. But for Kokeni, really using all of the circuit, all of his car to defend his position. He holds on to P8, but it certainly does mean now that Tudor Prescott has got the overspeed, just like we've seen from Lari Tulki. He boxed a lap later than Tulki did Tudor. He is certainly another driver with great pace at the moment. Sergio Sabrino, we also saw, was all over the back of Florian van Zelter into the first couple of corners. But we saw van Zelter as well, just behind Stevens. So that trio up at the front of the field certainly starting to get a little bit racy. As we see now Elia Tomasetto into the pit lane for a set of the mediums. And at the front of the field, it is oh so close, but it's also close once again between Kasper Flack and Tony Hietala.
Yep, close once more as we head down towards Tamburello. Kasper Flack's been stuck in behind for a while, and you can see an open door, but because of the nature of that braking zone, you're just not able to send the car in. and do it through that route. In the background, however, Pressacan fancying an opportunity, not being able to get his way by at the moment. Meanwhile, Larry Tulki has emerged and is in the fight as well. There goes Pressacan down the inside, a part of the circuit which he's been at so many times so far today, and it's going to be one which takes him up to 7th place. I was drawing your attention to Larry Tulki. He's now directly behind the top 3, who are getting very, very close together as we keep an eye on the mid-pack that continue to scrap it out in this middle part of the lap at the moment in time, but we've had the pit stops come in. This is now how your order looks. Casper Flack still looking for the chance, but not being able to get his way by.
Not being able to get his way by at all. And it is still oh so close between the top runners. And here Tala is somewhat holding up this train. Yes, he's only 6/10 back from Larry Tulki, but he's somewhat the cork in the bottle for those drivers on the faster tyres behind, or just overall faster in terms of pace, and Casper Flack being one of them, but he's now under pressure from Tudor Preskin, who of course we saw in the last lap get by onto Tamas Kokeni, and we certainly could now see him get by the Haas driver as well. He's going to look to the outside or the inside, neither at the moment, but is he going to set himself up like he did into Toza on that last lap? Sabrino was looking for a move there onto Van Selter. He'll get squeezed by the Cadillac and is not able to find a way through, and to the inside goes Tudor Preskin, and he's now through on to the Haas driver of Casper Flack. So he's now up into the top 6. He's certainly a driver to look out for as well, along with Larry Tulki. Tom Roberts is our first retirement of the race as he comes into the pit lane to end his Imola Grand Prix. And we see as well Larry Tulki pushing Sergio Sabrino down the hill, and the Alpine not able to find a lunge into Aqua Minerale. It would have been very bold if he did look for a lunge there.
Yep, absolutely. Would have been at the moment in time, but right now he's following the Red Bull around this Imola circuit, and that is going to be Tony Hietala under massive pressure from Pressacan. Wouldn't even be surprised if Pressacan has to go for the move, or at least look for it down towards Roberto. That's exactly the case. He's on the outside and he's fully ahead. Tony Hietala completely backing out of it. He's not even fighting it at the moment. Is the Aston Martin man, who is having not the time that he would have been hoping for, I think it's fair to say. But can Tulki try and make the pass on Sabrino down towards the first braking zone? Here's your top 4 coming into view at the moment. No, far too back for Larry Tulki. Zach Starler comes in to the pit lane to become our second retirement of the race.
Unfortunate there for Zach Styler. Hasn't had the pace so far this evening, and he just had to come in to retire. Jensen Ralston on the back of Tamas Kokeni. He'll look for a lunge into Toza. There's more contact into the hairpin between two cars, and Kokeni might just have to cede the position here as up the hill will go with Jensen Ralston. No, he's able to hold on quite nicely as the Cadillac driver, so he's able to get the foot down a little bit earlier on that outside line. Hold on to the place. Larry Tulki once again pushing Sabrino into Aqua Minerale, and he's just catching up at the wrong part of the circuit at the wrong time. And he's not going to look for the Longiva into the Valiente Auto, but it does give him an opportunity to back off, save the battery, and go on a big attack as Kokeni, to add to his troubles with a 10-second time penalty, gets 3 seconds to boot as well. As once we cross the line, we will have 9 laps remaining here in Imola. And at the moment, it is Liam Stevens who leads the way and will have a huge championship lead if he carries on to win this race. And Hietala down in 6th. As we make our way down the main straight, are we going to see any moves from anyone in the top 10?
That's the question as they make their way through. Well, not inside the top 10. We did get Lorera making an overtake. That was for 12th, however. Getting past Lorenz Pat, a massive tyre differential when it comes to that battle by PSGL standards. As we cut back over to the front of the field, Liam Stevens ahead of Florian Van Zelter. That's been the way ever since they made their pit stops, of course. The Van Zelter just looming large in the mirrors. Larry Tulki's on the scene. Sergio Sabrino there is in the middle. And this is an incredibly poised race for a circuit which we've been mentioning is hard to overtake. I think we've had that and it's been visible. But these drivers with different tyre lives meeting in the middle, with different battery levels meeting in the middle, has provided a race where drivers are having to work hard for the overtakes, and there's nothing really that's been too simple. Tulki had a few of those overtakes, and now he's very much stuck, and has Tador Pressacan, who's got the freshest tyres of them all in behind as well at the moment. So a very, very fascinating race as they continue to make their way through.
Yep, they certainly do indeed. You can see Larry Tilke is pushing Sabrino through that final corner, and this might be his opportunity to attack as he makes his way down that main straight, tucks into the slipstream, will use some of the battery, and just in front of him as well, Liam Stevens under attack from Florian Fanselter. He's been able to hang on against the Cadillac, and the Red Bull driver of Sabrino now offset as well through the Tamburello chicane, and here comes Tudor Preskin to maybe make an attack on the Alpine as Tilke was bogged down as well, but he's just not able to find his way through. Kokeni able to hold on against Jensen Ralston as there's going to be Tudor Preskin around the outside of Larry Tilke. Is the yellow flag in the background? That might be for Lorenz Patton. It is for Lorenz Patton who's gone round, and are we going to see Preskin make the move onto Larry Tilke? No, we are not, but it is certainly getting very racy indeed as Hietala forces Casper flat wide and hangs on to that 6th place for now. It certainly is kicking off up and down throughout the field, and Sabrino's drops off in pace means that Florian Fanselter has got a perfect opportunity to now redirect his attack, focus onto the V-carb in front of him, and try to take a maiden victory.
And that is so important for a driver as well, because it just gives him a bit more breathing room. If he goes for a move that doesn't work, okay, then at least he's got a few tenths of a second where he won't be completely attacked straight away by another driver. And it won't all go crazy, and it won't all go mad. But he makes his way then down towards Tamburello. It's Stevens in P1, Fanzelter P2, Sabrino in 3rd, Tilke 4th, Pressacan in 5th. The order 3rd to 5th remaining the same way after all of that fighting. But there's still plenty of laps for all of that to change. And this is an incredible race taking place in front of your very own eyes as Casper Flack has fought his way past Tony Hietala at long last. That overtake comes in because he's been trying to for a while. They have the same time. The Aston Martin driver has been struggling. And finally, up goes the Haas man.
Taking him quite a few laps as Casper Flack. He's fought with everything he has against Tony Hietala, who has defended valiantly. But it is finally the Haas driver's opportunity to go through and try and hunt down the drivers in front. But he does have a tyre differential, but with the way they're all scrapping, certainly could become someone who comes into play. So as we make our way through the Variante Alta on lap 26 of 32, when we cross the line, it'll be 6 laps remaining here this evening as Stephen Vasso picks up a 3-second time penalty. We'll bring up the penalties in a few moments' time. Tell you who exactly has what, but we'll quickly see this run down into the first corner, specifically with the Alpine of Larry Tilke as he gets closer to the back of Sergio Sabrina. But that Red Bull just seems to have a bit more pace in the straight line than the Alpine. Make our way through the first couple of corners. Nice and easy once again as Tamas Kokeni now gets past Tony Hietala, and he's just falling further and further backwards while his championship rival is at the forefront of this one as Hietala looks to the inside, isn't able to get the move back. Now we could see actually here, Omi, Tony Hietala not score any points, with Liam Stevens scoring a full maximum 16 from this race as Tudor Preskin now goes for a move onto Larry Tilke into the Piratella.
Yep, side by side, wheel to wheel racing between them and the McLaren. Very nearly thrown in towards the gravel trap. We continue on, and it's Tilke now with a bit of a buffer. And, well, the driver with the freshest tyres inside that top 5, trying to make the move, trying to go on the attack, but being shown the elbow. And they continue to fight. Lorenz Patton once again has found himself in trouble, and he's off the road in towards the gravel. And he'll continue on, and he's made his way off on the exit of Piratella as we cut back over to Larry Tilke because he is all over the back of Sergio Sabrino. He's been stuck in behind for quite a while. Is this the moment for Tilke to try and get on through? Pressacan has fallen a few tenths behind after that moment earlier on. Does the Alpine driver get it inside? Can he fight his way through? The answer's no at this stage, and he has to slot directly back in the wheel tracks. And this is a great race where the drivers are trying to make the moves coming to these final stages, but no one's being successful, and they're going to need something to come their way now in our remaining laps that we have.
Certainly is indeed, and I feel like this is a race where you've really got to use your intelligence, your racing intelligence when it comes to making these overtakes. You've got to try and offset the car in front, try to get him on a tighter line maybe into one of the corners, force him out wide onto the marbles, and also just put them under all sorts of pressure to try and get the move done. You have to use all of your racing IQ to get these moves done, and that is what I'm loving from these drivers so far, because they're all using it. They're all using how they know how to race these cars and they're all just capitalising on that fact. And the defending's been brilliant, the attacking has been brilliant as well, because some drivers have well and truly been caught napping when they don't need it the most. As Kilkenny's now to get past on Casper Flack, who lost that 1 second window to Tudor Prescott. As I see yellow flag further back, and that is for Lawrence Patton and Stephen Vasso once again through the, of course, Piratella right-hander. But Laurie Tilkey is all over the back of Sergio Sobrino, and Florian Fanselter looking for the move on Liam Stevens as well. Either driver able to fight their way through. It is all boiling up at the moment. It's all bubbling to that high pressure point. And that will be on lap 32, the final tour. And that is where maybe Omi Tamburello could be oh so crucial. And whoever comes out of there in the race lead may be the one who takes the checkered flag first.
Oh, it's going to be so important. Really excited for that. In the meantime, we're going to get entertained. Do not worry, it's PCF2. It's 2x2, heading uphill towards Piratella. And it is going to be Rosen out of Hietala. Then Gobadi trying to hang on up against Lorera. Lorera trying to place the car on the outside line. And they get to single file finally through that part of the circuit as they continue scrapping away. Lorenz Patton's had a day to forget, and he's going to retire out of the contest as well. Vasso very much is in the pit lane as well, and he's also going to do the exact same thing and retire. But this race has been fireworks, especially coming towards these final few laps between the drivers. They've been trying to make some moves, but they haven't been successful. Now we're going to go on to lap number 30, and there will be 3 laps to go, including this one. Who's going to be the next one to try and pounce? Who's going to be the next one to try and go on the attack as they fan out? And they're going to be making their way through with the McLaren in the way, the retired McLaren in the way momentarily, but luckily they were all able to get through, and now on board with Larry Tulke, who has been looking in his mirrors so many times, but now he's looking ahead to try and attack Van Zelter and Liam Stevens at this stage, and it's Tulke just placing the car on the outside line. Do not count out Pressakan, who's going through late on the brakes, and Pressakan's going to fight his way by. Tulke meanwhile being squeezed very nearly off the circuit, and Van Zelter getting his elbows out, and if these guys scrap, then it could open the door for Liam Stevens to try pull away. Alpine versus Cadillac as we head into the final stages of this one. Van Zelter stays ahead.
Yeah, stays ahead for now, does Florian Fanselter, the Cadillac driver, doing everything he can to keep within touching distance of Liam Stevens, but also keeping the Alpine behind with as much force as he can, of course. Larry Tilke looking for his 3rd PCF2 victory. He's 2nd of the season. The only driver to get 2 race wins, along with Liam Stevens if he does pick up this race victory. And then Florian Fanselter looking to pick up his 1st victory in his PCF2 career. He's currently looking at his first top 5 in his PCF2 career. So it could all kick off in these final 2 tours here at Imola. And is Laurie Tilke going to go for that move into the first corner? You bet he is. And Tilke now up into 2nd place. It's surely going to be a straight shootout here, you would believe, between Stevens and Tilke. And the upper hand is with the Alpine because he has those younger tyres.
Absolutely. Such an important move for Laurie Tulke, because now he can go on the attack and he can leave drivers like Van Zelter, drivers like Pressakan at the moment to just scrap it out and scrap away. And you can see once again Van Zelter's having to go defensive. Uphill we go down to Piratella. Pressakan's been brave with his moves. He's going to try and cut under, go to the inside line, and they very nearly made contact. Pressakan is going to fight his way by. Van Zelter will not be happy as they connected down the straight, and it means that the top 2 are being given basically a chance to pull away, and they are getting a little bit more of an advantage, making their way through towards these final few corners. So Pressakan and Van Zelter get to contact. Sobrino had absolutely nowhere to go. Tony Hietala's day is going from bad to worse. He's going to be getting himself a penalty and he's outside the point, so it will not matter regardless, and it will not be important. But look at Larry Tulke at the front of the field. He's got so much more momentum. He's already alongside. We're on the final lap of the race. Liam Stevens trying to grab another victory when it comes to his F2 career. He's trying to chase a 7th victory, but it's Larry Tulke to the apex first and to the race lead on the final lap.
Lovely stuff there from Laurie Tilke. That's a slide out of Tamburello, but I don't think Stevens can do anything about it because here comes Tudor Prescott to the inside, and this is going to give Laurie Tilke the breathing room he needs. Stevens was looking for his 7th victory, his 1st since Belgium this season, and at the moment he's looking to keep that 100% podium record alive at least and score some big points over rival Tony Hietala. Here comes Kilkenny on teammate Van Zelter. He does have 13 seconds of penalties, but he will finish 4th on the road as things stand. stand. And look how much of a gap Lari Tulki has pulled out over Liam Stevens. That gap now a second between the V-Carb and the Alpine. And Presikun will have the opportunity down into the Ravazza to get the move done on the V-Carb, because he does have that overtake mode compared to Stevens, and he will have that extra battery to play with. As we make our way now down into the Ravazzas, we'll cut to Lari Tulki in a few moments' time. We'll cut to him now, and this man has once again, like Madrid, pulled off the strategy to pinpoint perfection. It's going to be a second win of the season here for Lari Tulki, and his campaign is well and truly underway. Lari Tulki wins here in Imola with a spectacular performance, carving his way through the field at a circuit nobody could overtake at, but the man in the Alpine certainly delivered, and he used all of that racing IQ, all of these smarts to pick off this race victory. He got the strategy right once again, and Lari Tulki take a bow. 2 wins so far this season, and both of them have been down to flawless execution.
Yep, in Madrid, it was very much secured way before the last lap. He had to make the move, and he did it in such a way where it wasn't even a contest. He absolutely blasted past Liam Stevens, and it means it's a third F2 win for Lari Tulki. Stevens in second, and Presikun takes third position. Van Zelter will be disappointed with fourth, but it was great to see him get his first top 5 in F2. Sabrino in fifth, then Flack in sixth, Dowds in seventh, Lorero 8th, Ramon 9th, and Gobadi complete your points. Rousen in 11th, Tomasetto in 12th, and then Riddler, Hiatala, all next up in 12th, 13th, and 14th positions. And that was an absolutely incredible fight between them. And then we're going to find ourselves in 15th with Jacobs, then Kokani, Santana, Bohm, Vasso, Patton, who had issues towards the end. 1920th retiring in those final laps. Starlow and Roberts retired much more earlier on, and that is your classification after a wild race here at Imola. And a wild race, we say, because considering the practice races and considering everything we had, when we were hearing things like there's only 2 overtakes in them, it very much came alive, and the drivers saw that there's championship points up for grabs. It's no longer practice. They have to try and do some magic, and they absolutely did. And it was Lari Tulki who delivers once again.
He certainly does indeed, and that race did certainly deliver. I think with the pressure, now it was an actual race, unlike a practice, people knew they had to get moves done, and Lari Tulki certainly did. What a performance that was from the Finn, as he picks up his second win of the season. If we quickly look at the standings as well, that does mean now, I think, he moves up to second place in the standings. And it does mean he moves up into second place in the standings. And he brings his gap down by a total of 4 points to Liam Stevens. So that gap at the top, now 34 points between Tulki and Stevens. And with that as well, becomes the first double winner of the season, along with Liam Stevens, our second been able to do it. And coming into this season, I think we were expecting Hiatala to be the other multiple-time race winner here, Omi. So for Lari Tulki to pick up 2 races this season, he's gelled with the regulations well, and he's come as a somewhat of a surprise package into the championship campaign.
We always get a few of them in an F2 career. They show a glimpse at some point in previous seasons, and then they execute it very, very well. And that is exactly what Lari Tulki was able to do. And it seems like, as per normal with F2, we only get 1 driver, typically, after a race. It seems like we are going to get to speak with our race winner. And Max will be holding the microphone and speaking with Tulki, who, as you mentioned, has taken a second F2 win.
Yes, let's now bring Lari into the commentary box to talk about that fantastic display here in Imola. And of course, it just seems that we get these drivers when they've won. We don't get the second or third place, man. It's only the race winner who we get to speak to, but it's still nice either way. So, hello, Lari. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you guys. Hello.
Well, first of all, congratulations on your second race victory of the season. Talk us through that race. Just how did you find that? You got that completely correct on the strategy point.
Yeah, I mean, it's horrible to race like here. Like you can't do anything like about the overtaking because there's like 0 slipstream. But yeah, I mean, it went well. I thought I would not get into the top places because I boxed very, very late. So, yeah. I guess it was a good race.
It was certainly indeed. Of course, talking about you boxing late, was it always the plan to box when you did, or did you think you're in the lower ends of the top 10, we might as well try something different then, or what was it just always going to be that lap you were going to come in?
I mean, we were just looking when people are gonna box in behind and like focus on our own thing. That was like the plan. And then we saw like a good opportunity to box, and then it worked out at the end. So yeah.
Certainly did indeed. And of course, you've mentioned how difficult it was to overtake with a lack of slipstream. Did it take a lot of mental strength to try and get the move done? Because of course there was plenty of times where the overtake just couldn't happen. Was it frustrating when, of course, behind the likes of Sabrino, you kept trying, but just nothing seemed to work?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's always in these kind of tracks when there's like zero room to overtake. It's a tough one. So yeah.
Of course, that now puts you up to second place in the driver's standings as well. Did you expect to be second in the standings at this point in the season when we started all the way back at Silverstone?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't expect, because there's just a lot of better people than me driving in this tier anyway. So I didn't expect it to be at P2, but I guess it's good then. So yeah.
Certainly is. You've been one of the standout drivers of the season so far, and we of course head to Vegas next time out. First of all, will you be racing? And second of all, are you confident around Vegas?
Yeah, I will be racing like always, and then Vegas is a decent track. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting race to watch.
Certainly will be indeed with these new regulation of cars. But congratulations, Laurie. Go enjoy the rest of your evening and go celebrate that race victory. And you never know, we might see you back on that top step next week.
Yeah, we'll not know that but yet, but yeah, thanks anyway, and see you.
For joining us, Laurie. Well, that was your race winner, Laurie Toolkey, here in the box. And I think he summed that up pretty well. Because of how little that slipstream was, Omi, it was just all about trying to find your way through any gap possible, and exactly that.
Yeah, absolutely. A really, really great drive. And basically, as he said in that interview, it wasn't clear whether he was going to be able to do that. It kind of came down to it kind of came down to being in the right place, quite literally, because we were at moments commentating over him trying to hang on to that third. And then eventually it all worked out in his favor. He placed the car in the right position. So the strategy was basically good. It kind of gave him a fighting chance, and then he had to try and, utilize that and try to do something with it as well. So yes, great to gain the insight there from Laurie Tulki, and I think, Max, we got a little bit more words from him this time around than last time out in Madrid, because he had a few more things to tell us about. So well done to you for asking all the great questions there, and yes, it very much gives us an idea of his mindset as he makes his way towards Las Vegas. And as he says, we don't know what's going to happen because it's F2, it's unpredictable, so we're going to have to go there and we're going to have to find out.
Yeah, we certainly will have to go and find out and see what happens, but Vegas is surely going to be a classic that you guys at home do not want to miss. But yeah, it was also just the fact of, I think the tyre drop-off helped Laurie as well on that one. Of course, him being on those younger tyres, Stevens and Van Selter's tyres starting to degrade and starting to fade, really gave him that opportunity to take that race victory. He got the strategy flawlessly correct in point perfection from the Alpine man. But quickly, before we head off, let's quickly run you through the calendar for the remainder of the season. It is, of course, as we mentioned, Vegas next week. We are now well and truly into that second half of the season. So if you haven't got your championship underway, you can somewhat, unless you go on a monumental run, say goodbye to your championship chances. We head to Vegas next week before Mexico for round 8. Round 9 is Brazil, and then to end off the season, we have Bahrain and Texas. Of course, no more break weeks, so it is going to be the next 5 weeks in quick succession. Of course, we will end the season on October the 1st and Omi. Before we head off, is there any last words from you from this evening's action?
Well, yeah. I mean, first of all, yeah, you guys are going to be stuck with our faces all the way through. No more break weeks to, well, get a break from F2. So it is very much just all eyes forward to crowning a champion, and Liam Stevens trying to get himself a step closer to it. But I mean, you know, the racing, for all the expectation, it definitely was above what we ended up getting across Imola. And of course, on Monday, you'll be able to see the PlayStation tiers as well go at it. So it'll be very fascinating to see how they get on. And of course, when it comes to the day after, on Tuesday, we're going to be kickstarting a brand new season of PCF1. Lots of drivers who've gone through this championship will, of course, be competing in that. So we'll very much be cheering them on from the F2 comms box. But yes, that'll be a lot of fun on Tuesday to watch how round number 1 at Abu Dhabi goes for them. And then you'll get back to us when it comes to a week's time in Thursday.
Yes, so some very exciting times ahead, especially with PCF1 finally back on its return. You do not want to miss that one either, as you can see all of the esports drivers go toe to toe here in PSGL. But ladies and gentlemen, that is going to be it. So make sure you tune in with us next week at 8 p.m. UK time, 9 p.m. European time, for a trip to Las Vegas. Liam Stevens has been able to capitalise and improve his championship position. Larry Tilke seems to be on some fine form at the moment. Will the championship shrink, or will it extend once more next time out in Vegas? Who will get the jackpot? We will find out. So stay safe, stay well. Thank you for watching. See you in Vegas. Thank you, and bye-bye.